Hi, I'm Jen with Start With Soap, and in this video we're going to talk about using soap, a true soap, not a detergent, for hand washing. Now let's talk step by step about how to switch to a true soap for hand washing. Step 1 is to pack up all the detergent-based hand washing products in your home. Put them in a box or in a storage tote, somewhere where they're out of sight, out of mind. The reason for this is that if you make the switch to soap and you're not satisfied for any reason, you've still got all your old products, you can pull them back out and go back to using them. You haven't thrown them away and now need to go out and buy them again. I'm confident you're going to like the switch to soap, but just in case. When you're packing up all your detergent-based hand products, keep in mind that probably everything is going to be a detergent-based hand product. Even things that are called hand soap are often detergents. And the only way you can know is by reading the list of ingredients on the product label. And that's maybe not a very fun activity for a lot of people. I actually love looking at product labels, and anytime I'm in a public bathroom, I'll even pick up the soap and look at the label just to see what's in it. So if you have questions and you don't want to read your label yourself, send a picture to me and I'm happy to look at it for you. Step 2 is to place a true soap next to each sink that you use for hand washing in your home. So your kitchen sink, your bathroom sinks, maybe if you have a sink in your laundry room, wherever you wash your hands. And that's either going to be a bar of soap or a foaming soap dispenser. And we'll come back to step 2 in a minute, how to do step 2 for different types of soap. Step 3 is to use that soap to wash your hands, obviously. Step 4, now this is a bonus step. Use that same soap that you're now using to wash your hands to wash everything else that you wash at that sink. Your dishes, your body, your countertop at the end of the day when you go to wipe it down. Anything that you wash at that sink, use that same soap for your washing now. And now if that's too much to think about at that stage, forget about step 4, the bonus step, and just stick with step 3 of washing your hands at that sink with your true soap, and we'll come back to step 4 later on. Now let's circle back to step 2, where we're putting soap next to each sink in our home. You may recall in an earlier video I talked about 3 different kinds of soap: bar soap, soap flakes, and liquid concentrate. And so when you put soap next to your sink in your home, it's going to look a little different depending on what type of soap you're using. For a bar of soap, just stick the bar of soap next to your sink and that's it. For soap flakes or liquid concentrate, you're going to use a foaming dispenser and you're going to add a little bit of concentrate to your dispenser and then dilute with water. And that's what you'll use for your hand washing. So still really easy, but it does require just a couple extra steps. Now, one thing that I want to touch on here is the terminology because it's a little confusing. We're talking about soap flake concentrate, which is concentrate that you've made starting with solid soap flakes. So if you recall, soap flakes are solid flakes of soap. And I have another video about how to do this. You made your concentrate, you made your soap flake concentrate by combining soap flakes with hot water and letting the soap flakes dissolve. So this is now really concentrated soap flake concentrate. There's also liquid concentrate, which you buy off the shelf at a store in liquid form. So soap flakes start out as solid, and you're turning them into concentrate by adding hot water. And liquid concentrate starts out, or it always is a liquid. It always was a liquid and it stays a liquid. Now you might be asking yourself, why would I go to the trouble of making my own concentrate if I can just buy concentrate at the store? And the reason is that liquid concentrates can be harsher on the skin, especially for people with sensitive skin. The liquid soaps can be harsher because of the different base that's used for liquid soaps. So just to reiterate, because I realize the terminology can be kind of confusing, because technically these are both soap concentrates. There's your soap flake concentrate, which is what you've made starting with solid soap flakes and adding hot water. And then there's what I'm going to call your liquid concentrate, which is what you buy in a bottle from the store. And the process is basically the same. You're just adding a little bit of concentrate to your dispenser and then diluting with water. But I just want to be clear that these are different products with different ingredients. And so you'll want to be sure to choose the right one depending on what your needs are in terms of skin sensitivity and priorities and that kind of thing. Now let's talk about filling your dispensers. And let me take a minute to explain why I recommend foaming dispensers as opposed to a regular liquid hand soap pump. The soap tends to clog up the regular soap pumps over time. And when it clogs up, the next time you go to wash your hands, the soap squirts out at an odd angle and you end up with soap on your shirt instead of on your hands. And so I prefer the foaming dispensers. You could try the liquid dispensers, but just be aware that that's something that you might encounter. In terms of the type of foaming dispenser that you use, it doesn't matter. If you have an empty container at home that you can repurpose, then just go ahead and use that. Or if you want, you can check out my product suggestions for the foaming dispensers that I use with mason jars around our home. All right, after all of that, we're finally getting to the reason you're here. How to fill up your foaming hand dispenser with your concentrate and dilute it with water so that you can set it next to your sinks in your home. So, first things first, I've got my empty foaming dispenser here that's ready to be refilled. And since I use mason jars, when I'm ready to refill, I grab a clean mason jar and I use this to fill up. If you're using a different type of dispenser, you could just give this a rinse, but either way, you want to get a fresh start each time because soap is a natural product without preservatives. And so as you dilute it with water, it will eventually go bad over time. It has a limited shelf life. And so I like to get a fresh start whenever I'm refilling my dispensers. And so I either keep using the dispenser until it's totally empty, or this has just maybe like a teeny bit left in it. I'm gonna set this next to my kitchen sink and I'll use it to wash dishes later or something of that nature. So I've got my clean mason jar here and I've got my soap flake concentrate that I made previously. And I'm just going to add, and my mason jar has measuring lines on it. So this line down here at the bottom is 1/4 cup. So I'm just gonna add 1/4 cup of the soap flake concentrate to my mason jar. And I'm giving you a measurement so that you have an idea of how much product to use, but you'll know as you're using your foaming hand dispensers whether it's too thick or too thin. And if it's too thick, add some more water, and if it's too thin, you'll want to use more concentrate next time. So you'll get a feel for it as you go. But 1/4 cup with about then filling up to the 12-ounce line on the mason jar is typically a good ratio for me. Actually, I'm going to give my soap flake concentrate a shake before I pour it, just to make sure everything's homogeneous in there. Okay, so about 1/4 cup. And then you top it off with purified water. And I use purified water for my sink. We have a water filter under our sink. If you have a refrigerator with a water filter in it, you could use that. And the reason is because, again, soap is a natural product. And so when you dilute it with water, you're shortening its shelf life. And so if you can use as clean of water as possible, you'll extend the shelf life as long as possible. If you're adding the contaminants in tap water, you might end up with a more limited shelf life for your hand soap. Now, that might not matter for you because you might go through it so quickly that you don't notice the difference. And if you don't have a water filter, don't worry about it. Give it a try with tap water. And if you feel like it's not lasting as long as you'd like it to, then you can go to the store with a jug and fill up from a reverse osmosis or distilled water dispenser and use that for your soap making. So I'm going to fill this up from my kitchen sink water filter dispenser up to the 12-ounce line. So I've got my diluted soap concentrate in my mason jar, and at this point I could just screw the top on and be done. My soap dispensers always get really grimy. I don't know if you can see it, but you can just take my word for it that it's grimy with little fingers, or my own fingers probably too. So I always rinse off my soap dispenser top at the same time that I'm refilling. So I'm gonna give this a quick rinse at the sink too, and I'll be right back. All right, I've got a clean dispenser top. I'm gonna screw this onto the mason jar. Give it a gentle shake or swirl. And one thing to keep in mind when you're filling up your foaming hand dispensers is not to let the water line go above the foaming mechanism, the pump mechanism. So let me take this off again. Don't let your water line creep up here to where the foaming mechanism is. Keep it below that. And so if you need to use less than 12 ounces of water in order to do that, because you can actually break your dispenser. I somehow managed to make a huge mess when I just took that off to show you the pump mechanism. No big deal, it's just soap, it'll rinse off in the sink. So I'm gonna do that, and then I'll set it by my kitchen sink, and this is ready to go. Now, if you're using liquid concentrate for your foaming dispensers, you're gonna follow the same process that I just showed you for the soap flake concentrate, but you're gonna follow the dilution ratios that are recommended for your product. So Dr. Bronner's recommends a ratio of 1 part soap to 3 parts water. That feels a little high to me. I would probably do more like 1 part soap to 5 parts water, but you can play around with the ratio and see what makes sense for you. And regardless of whether you're using soap flake concentrate or liquid concentrate, If you're not happy with the consistency, if it's not as foamy as you want, if it seems too runny, you can always add more of your concentrate, although don't make it too thick or else you will clog up your dispenser. And if it seems like it's too thick or it seems like your dispenser's clogging, then you can add more water to make it thinner. So you can always adjust the dilution to get the end product that you're looking for. And again, this is something that you really can't mess up. You're just gonna play around with it and you're gonna figure out what ratios work best for you. I honestly didn't start measuring anything until I started making these videos and felt like I needed to give people measurements. So you can also just totally wing it and you'll be fine. Follow along with my other videos to learn how to use soap, a true soap, not a detergent, in other aspects of your daily living.